I've traveled through time and space, ending up in the body of a devoted, rich second-generation heir. Well, devoted might be too generous, more like a simp. But here's the strange part. This rich heir was officially appointed to be a simp, with both sets of parents fully endorsing it. That I did not see coming. My name is Chun Fan, and I was once a proud human survival supplies spatial relocation specialist. Wait, no, that was my old identity. Now, I'm a rich second-generation heir, also named Chun Fan. 3 days ago, while riding my beloved electric artifact, transporting survival supplies through spatial relocation, I had the misfortune of encountering the legendary heavenly artifact, the Great Fortune Automobile. Given my modest cultivation, I stood no chance against such a formidable artifact. Its overwhelming aura blasted me away instantly. Dead on the spot, my Tao extinguished. Just as I was waiting to reincarnate in 18 years and resume my old profession, I suddenly realized I had transmigrated, and not just anywhere, but into the body of a rich second-generation heir in another world. What the hell? Did the heavenly artifact feel guilty and decide to compensate me this way? But when I sorted through the memories in my head, I was utterly stunned. The original owner of this body was a simp. They say simps don't get houses. But in this guy's case, things were different, because he was assigned to be a simp, with both families fully supporting it. That's just absurd. Though, to be fair, after digging through his memories, I found out the girl he was simping for was drop-dead gorgeous. Her name was Bai Ningbing, the jewel of the Bai family in Yunqing and the executive vice president of Bai Corporation, a bona fide billionaire beauty CEO. At 25 years old, her looks, if perfection is 100, she's at least a 97. 171 centimeters tall, with curves in all the right places. Her figure alone is a 98. As for her personality, well, it's complicated. It matches her name perfectly, just 2 words. Ice block. Around her female friends, she's completely normal. But with any man who isn't her father, cold as a glacier, avoiding any unnecessary interaction. Even during business negotiations, if the other party is male, she becomes stingy with words, sticking strictly to work topics and nothing else. Over time, people just got used to it. While her personality didn't hinder the company's growth, her parents were freaking out. Because Bai Ningbing was already 25. If she kept this up, when would they ever get to hold their grandchild? Every time they went out for a walk, they'd see others showing off their grandkids, how well-behaved they were, how they could walk, how they could talk, all that nonsense. It drove them crazy with envy. So, the Chun family, strategic partners of the Bai family, and the original owner's family, became their partners in another sense. The reason? The original owner was also 25, had a thing for Bai Ningbing, and his parents were equally desperate for a grandchild. A match made in heaven. Thus, the original owner was officially appointed as Bai Ningbing's state-approved simp. And he simped for 2 whole years. 2 years isn't exactly short, but it's not forever either. So, he was ready to give up because it was just too damn hard. Bai Ningbing might as well have been a glacier. No matter how much warmth he poured on her, she showed 0 signs of melting. Sure, he liked her, but he wasn't an idiot. If this kept up, he'd become a laughingstock in their social circle. And then where would that leave him? So he gathered a few close buddies and held a farewell ceremony for his simp days by drinking, then went home to lay it all out for his parents. Whether it was because he drank too much or something else, no one knows. After his friends carried him home and he lay down, he suddenly kicked his legs out, then silently turned cold. And that's how I got the chance to swoop in like a cuckoo, taking over a magpie's nest. Ah, life is unpredictable, like a sausage wrapped in a larger sausage. One moment, I was getting blasted to death by a heavenly artifact, and the next, I became a billionaire's second-generation heir. Original owner, I'll inherit your unfinished business. I'll help you quit being Bai Ningbing's simp. Rest easy now. After this little reflection, I suddenly felt as if I'd been injected with adrenaline, my whole body brimming with energy. This physical change made me think of one word: obsession. Could it be that the transformation I'm experiencing is due to the original owner's lingering regrets finally dissipating? After sorting through the memories in my head, I walked over to the full-length mirror in the room and couldn't help but give myself a few appreciative nods. Gotta say, the original owner's looks and physique were seriously impressive. 187 centimeters tall, with an 8-pack. A total looker. No wonder he didn't want to be a simp anymore. With looks like his and the status of a billionaire heir, what woman couldn't he get? Why freeze to death over by Ningbing, that block of ice? Sure, finding another ultra beauty like by Ningbing, who scored over 97 out of 100, might be tough, but landing a few 90-plus beauties? Easy. Honestly, just grab two 90-pointers. That's 180 points combined. Wouldn't that completely crush a single 97-pointer? Now that there's an idea. After sizing up my new body, I threw on some clothes and headed downstairs. Coincidentally, the moment I reached the first floor, I spotted the original owner's dad, Chun Jiahao, and mom, Huang Yuding, completely engrossed in the TV, so much so that they didn't even notice me walking up beside them. So I turned to see what was on. What the hell? The show playing was an anime? Were these two elderly folks trying to act young, or were they reminiscing about their childhood? Two people whose combined age was nearly 100 were watching a cartoon meant for teenagers. This had me seriously confused. But to be fair, after watching for a bit, even though I didn't know the plot, the animation quality was top-notch, definitely not some cheap production. Because of that, I walked over to the other side of the sofa and sat down to watch too. After who knows how long, the anime finally ended. The story was pretty emotional, so the original owner's mom was bawling her eyes out, going through tissues like crazy. Especially when the line, "My fate is mine to command, not heaven's," was delivered. Even the original owner's dad couldn't help but wipe his eyes a few times. Damn, now I suddenly felt like I had something in my eye too. A while later, the original owner's parents finally noticed their son had been watching with them. His mom asked with concern, "Xiao Fan, why did you drink so much last night? Did something happen? If anything's wrong, you have to tell us. Don't keep it bottled up." His dad chimed in, "Yeah, when Zhang's kid carried you back yesterday, you scared the hell out of us. You've never gotten that drunk before. If there's something you can't handle, just talk to us." Hearing their tone, I knew this was the perfect opportunity to bring up quitting the simp life. So I put on a slightly dejected voice and said, "Dad, Mom, it's nothing serious. It's just about Bai Ningbing. It's just that I don't want to pursue Bai Ningbing anymore. I feel like there's absolutely no hope. I've hovered around her for 3 years, and no matter how hard I tried, she's like a block of ice that's been frozen for 10,000 years, showing no signs of melting. So I feel that continuing like this is no different from wasting time. As for getting drunk, it was because I told my friend about this yesterday, and they were celebrating for me, so inevitably I drank a bit too much. I promise it won't happen again." Hearing this, the two couldn't help but show concerned expressions. They were very clear about their son pursuing Bai Ningbing. This was also what they and Bai Ningbing's parents hoped for the most. After all, with the two families being strategic partners, wouldn't it be a powerhouse union if their children could get together? For this reason, they had often strategized for the original host, such as assigning the two of them to a specific location for a business trip, designating them both to be in charge of a certain project, or creating opportunities for them to be alone together, and so on. Unfortunately, it didn't have much effect, because Bai Ningbing truly was a block of ice, giving the original host absolutely no chance. So upon hearing their son intended to give up pursuing Bai Ningbing, while they felt heartache, they also breathed a sigh of relief. Although Bai Ningbing was extremely beautiful and highly capable, and they liked her very much. If the two could get together, it would be an excellent thing for both the Chun and Bai families. But they also knew that their son had indeed suffered quite a bit and attracted considerable criticism during the 2 years he pursued Bai Ningbing. If things continued like this, whether it would succeed was still unknown, but their son would definitely suffer more, and his status as a simp would only become more entrenched. Therefore, if he gave up now, although they wouldn't achieve closer cooperation with the Bai family, and the wish to hold a grandchild wouldn't be realized so soon, at least their son would be better off. Comparatively, they preferred their son to be happy. After all, wasn't the money they earned for their son? Besides, holding a grandchild could wait another couple of years. After thinking it through, the original host's mother, Huang Yuding, comforted him. All right. Since that girl Bai Ningbing doesn't like you, then we won't pursue her anymore. Next, Xiao Fan. You should take a good rest for a while. Don't worry about things at the company. Mom will transfer you some money in a bit. Take it and do whatever you like. Beside her, Chun Jiahao chimed in. Your mom is right. Although we really wanted you and that girl by Ningbing to get together so we could hold a grandchild sooner, since there's no hope with her, we should give up early. Cutting losses promptly is also a strategy. But you can't just become complacent because of this. If you see another girl you like, go after her bravely. Find a girlfriend soon, and let us hold our grandchild. Also, let me tell you, it's not just the two of us urging you. Your grandparents are also pushing to hold a great-grandchild. You don't want them nagging you when you go home for the new year, right? Hearing this, the scene of the original host returning to his hometown last year instantly appeared in my mind. At that time, because his pursuit of Bai Ningbing had become known to the two elders, they assumed they would soon be holding a great-grandchild. Therefore, they nagged him quite a bit back then to win Bai Ningbing over quickly. If he went home this year, and they found out he had given up chasing Bai Ningbing, wouldn't their anticipation over the past year have been in vain? Thinking about the disappointed expressions on the two elders' faces when they heard he had given up on Bai Ningbing and their hopes for a great-grandchild had gone down the drain, I couldn't help but feel my scalp tingle. Although I, having transmigrated, didn't personally experience the care of the original owner's grandparents, I can genuinely feel that unique emotion through his memories. So, even though I've already decided to honor the original owner's intention and give up pursuing Bai Ningbing, I still feel it's quite necessary to fulfill the elders' hopes. After all, they just want to hold a great-grandchild, and they never specified it had to be with Bai Ningbing. Thinking of this, I smiled at the original owner's parents, my parents now, and said, Dad, Mom, don't worry. I've only given up on pursuing Bai Ningbing. It's not like I've stopped liking women altogether. Besides, with your son's looks, finding a girlfriend should be a piece of cake. If I hadn't wasted the last 2 years chasing after Bai Ningbing, you might even be holding your second grandchild by now. Hearing this, Chun Jiahao and Huang Yuding nodded affirmatively. They were indeed very satisfied with their son's looks. Handsome features, sharp jawline, an air of distinction. He had clearly inherited the best traits from both of them. So, after hearing my assurance, they didn't press the matter further. They then instructed the housekeeper to prepare lunch for me. After lunch, I received the allowance money my mom transferred over. Not too much, not too little, exactly one small target. I have to say it's great being rich. Pocket money starting in the 9 figures. However, after receiving the money, the question of where to go and what to do became a rather large problem. For the past 2 years, the original owner, aside from handling company work, had spent all his time fawning over Bai Ningbing, a total simp through and through. But now, he didn't need to go to the company, and he wasn't chasing Bai Ningbing anymore. It seemed he genuinely didn't know what to do. Hang out with the original owner's degenerate friends? Better not. Unable to think of anything to do after mulling it over, I returned to my room. I decided to first get a better understanding of this world before doing anything else. After all, according to the original owner's memories, while this world's timeline and technological development were mostly similar to my previous life, there were still some distinct differences. Take the food delivery industry, for instance. In this world, it was surprisingly still stuck in the primitive stages of ordering via phone calls or social media apps. Dedicated food delivery apps were currently non-existent, a complete blank slate. Therefore, for me, this was simply a massive heaven-sent opportunity. You have to understand, the food delivery industry is potentially a trillion-dollar market. Furthermore, the business model for food delivery platforms from my previous life was already highly mature. I just needed to replicate it. There would be no need to go through over a decade of development to reach a trillion-dollar scale, like it did in my past life. This also meant that with sufficient funding, food delivery could rapidly spread across various sectors in a short period. And coincidentally, funding was exactly what I didn't lack right now. Wasn't this just perfect? At this thought, I immediately walked over to the computer and skillfully pressed the power button. Once the computer booted up, I eagerly opened a document, ready to start drafting the business plan for the food delivery service. Although Mom and Dad doted on me, giving me a small target's worth of allowance at a time, if I wanted them to make a large-scale investment, I obviously couldn't just rely on their affection to ask for it. Instead, I needed to produce a solid, tangible business plan. Moreover, the plan had to be extremely detailed, clearly outlining the execution steps for every stage. Otherwise, even if they were willing to fund my venture, they might hold back due to the plan's lack of clarity. After all, even if the Chun Group was wealthy, they wouldn't casually hand over tens of billions for me to splurge. Therefore, after organizing the memories in my mind, my hands began to fly rapidly across the keyboard. I have to say, as an heir to 100 billion fortune, the original owner's knowledge and upbringing were truly impressive. Influenced by his memories, writing such a large-scale project proposal was as easy as breathing for me. It only took me 4 hours to draft the entire project's framework. Next, I just needed to flesh out the details, which would take considerably more time. And so, for the next few days, aside from meals, I basically spent all my time in my room, typing away at the keyboard. Such unusual behavior made my parents worried that something might be wrong with me. I had no choice but to tell them, so they wouldn't worry that I'd thought of an excellent project and was currently drafting the detailed plan. I promised to show it to them once it was finished, assuring them they'd be absolutely stunned by the content. Seeing how confident I looked, they had little choice but to believe me and stopped asking why I was always staying in my room. Meanwhile, during my time at home, two strange things happened in Yinqing. The first concerned the Bai Group's plan to invest $5 billion in a large fixed-wing drone production line. According to their media spokesperson, this venture was an attempt to explore a new logistics model, aiming to provide online shopping enthusiasts with a faster delivery experience. What made it strange was that the design of this large drone looked strikingly familiar. As for the second matter, it involved Chun Fan, the young master of the Chun Group, known as Yunqing's #1 simp, who was suspected of giving up his pursuit of Yunqing's #1 beauty by Ningbing, the vice president of the Bai Group. While both incidents sparked heated discussions among netizens, the second seemed to capture more public attention. This was because, for 2 consecutive years prior, Simp Chun Fan had shown up punctually at the first floor of the Bai Group headquarters every single day, holding roses, waiting for Bai Ningbing to finish work. Unless Bai Ningbing wasn't in the office or was genuinely held up by personal affairs, he was there every day, rain or shine, without fail. Such dedication was staggering. As for why the rumor spread that Chun Fan had given up pursuing Bai Ningbing, besides my own absence from the Bai Group headquarters for several days, friends of the original owner had also leaked quite a bit of information. Therefore, the accuracy of this news appeared very high. Consequently, large numbers of netizens began discussing it, eagerly consuming the gossip. They were also very curious why someone who had persisted, rain or shine, for 2 years would suddenly give up. Was there some particular reason behind it? Many netizens even lamented that if even a 100-billionaire heir couldn't win over the girl he liked in this world, what chance did average Joes like them have of finding true love? And so, fueled by the extensive discussions and shares among netizens, this news quickly reached Bai Ningbing's ears. In Bai Ningbing's office, her secretary, Zhang Xiaoli, was reporting to her about the situation. President Bai, that's the gist of how this started. Should we arrange for PR? If these discussions are allowed to continue, it might negatively impact you. Hearing this, a flicker of annoyance crossed Bai Ningbing's cold, beautiful face. She was about to order a public statement for PR, but she quickly dismissed the idea. Although Chun Fan's relentless, rain or shine pursuit over the past 2 years had caused her considerable annoyance, it had also simultaneously deterred other wealthy suitors, giving her a measure of peace and quiet. So, strictly speaking, Chun Fan had, to a certain extent, actually been helping her. Moreover, given the cooperative relationship between the Chun and Bai families, issuing a public statement would be tantamount to humiliating the Chens. By both reason and sentiment, she couldn't do such a thing. Having realized this, Bai Ningbing replied, "Xiaoli, inform the PR department that they don't need to address this matter. If reporters inquire, simply say it's a private issue." Understood, President Bai. After receiving the instruction, Zhang Xiaoli nodded and left the office to relay the message. Once her secretary was gone, Bai Ningbing also stood up and walked to the window. Gazing at the towering 88-story building in the distance, she couldn't help but sigh. She had long been aware of her parents' and Chun Fan's parents' intentions to matchmake them. But in her heart, there had always been a figure that made it impossible for her to accept the affections of any other man. Over the years, this figure had become an obsession in her heart, though she had tried to let go. After all, more than a decade had passed without finding any trace of that person. The moment she came across anything related to Rivers, the memories of that day would flood back. Even after 18 years, the scene remained vivid in her mind. Back then, 9-year-old Bai Ningbing had been catching fish by the river in her hometown with her grandparents. Though she had learned basic swimming and was safe as long as she stayed away from the river center, fate had other plans. While they were fishing, the reservoir upstream, overwhelmed by days of heavy rain, had reached critical levels, forcing an emergency release. Normally, such releases were announced in advance, allowing downstream areas to evacuate and prepare. But this time, the reservoir operators had opened the floodgates without warning. A torrent of water surged downstream, forming a raging flood. Such a force would overpower even a grown adult, let alone a 9-year-old girl. Before Bai Ningbing could react, the floodwaters swept her into the river. Her grandparents, watching from the shore, were spared, but for them, this was the worst outcome. Their beloved granddaughter was now struggling in the violent currents. Though they immediately ran along the bank, hoping to intercept her, their elderly legs couldn't match the flood speed. Helplessly, they watched as she disappeared from sight. Just as Bai Ningbing was about to lose consciousness from drowning, she spotted a bare-chested boy leaping from the shore and swimming swiftly toward her. In that moment of despair, a glimmer of hope reignited. But having inhaled too much water, she soon blacked out. She had no idea how much time had passed when she suddenly felt rhythmic pressure on her chest. After several compressions, a bitter taste rose in her throat, and she vomited a large amount of water with a gasp. Slowly, her consciousness returned. Through blurred vision, she made out the boy's face. His eyes brimmed with relief as he smiled down at her. His handsome features and gentle gaze overlapped with the image of the prince in her heart. But after carefully checking that she was all right, the boy called out to her grandparents and left. From start to finish, she never managed to ask the boy's name or address. She only saw a distinctive mark on the boy's shoulder. It was the only clue she had to his identity. And the image of that boy, from then on, she kept hidden deep within her heart. Later, she searched every village within a few kilometers of the river where it happened, but she never found the boy who saved her, nor any information about him. This led her to believe for a while that the boy didn't really exist in the world, as if he had come specifically to save her and vanished right after. Even her grandparents thought so too. But as she grew older, she became increasingly convinced that the boy who had saved her truly existed in this world. And so she started searching anew. And this search went on for over a decade. During that time, she hired countless private investigators to search, yet still couldn't find the boy who had both saved her and captured her heart. Although online discussions about me giving up on pursuing Bai Ningbing were trending, immersed as I was in drafting the business plan, I had no interest whatsoever in paying attention to such matters. Ultimately, it took me a full 8 days to complete the entire business plan. After checking it several times and confirming there were no errors, I breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, I got this thing done. Next, let the world witness the might of a food delivery army. After copying the document to a USB drive, I took it and headed downstairs. Since my parents weren't home, I had no choice but to go to the company to find them. Following the original owner's memories, I went down to the underground garage and found my car, a custom-built coupe valued at over $300 million. I have to admit, the rich really live comfortably. Even the cars are custom-made. Familiarly starting the car, I drove it out of the home garage and headed towards the company. Although this car cost over $200 million, its appearance wasn't flashy like other supercars. Its price was primarily justified by its safety features. The car was equipped with things like bulletproofing, waterproofing, amphibious capabilities, and life-saving functions. Of course, it still possessed the power and performance expected at this price point. It's just that its appearance leaned more towards a business style, quite different from the vehicles favored by the current generation of wealthy heirs. On the way, while driving, I watched the roadside greenery quickly receding. For some reason, on a sudden impulse, I made a turn and drove onto a side road. And in the original owner's memory, not far beyond this intersection, was a small river. The river wasn't very wide, but it was quite deep, about 2 to 3 meters. Previously, because of urban development, this small river had turned into a stinking ditch. Later, as urban environmental cleanup efforts began, the river started to become clear again. After driving along the narrow road for about 2 kilometers, the river came into view. But when I reached the riverbank, to my surprise, there was a luxury car parked there, and it looked very familiar. Parking the car on the side of the narrow road, ensuring it wouldn't obstruct passing vehicles, I then got out and walked towards that somewhat familiar luxury car. When I got a clear look at the license plate, I froze for a moment. It was by Ningbing's car. Could it be that she came here too? However, before I could even decide whether to leave immediately, I heard cries for help from nearby. The voice was instantly recognizable. It was by Ningbing. Without taking time to think further, I quickly ran towards the direction of the cries. In no time, I saw a woman floating in the middle of the river. She looked like she had already fainted. If no one came to her rescue, she would likely sink beneath the water in no time. Seeing this, I ripped off my jacket and shoes as quickly as possible and sprinted towards the woman. Then, with a splash, I jumped into the river. Instantly, a bone-chilling cold surged from the water, nearly finishing me off right then and there. It was damn cold. Although it was already March, a cold snap meant the temperature in Yun City only reached about 7 degrees Celsius at its highest, dipping down to just 3 degrees at its lowest. So under these conditions, you can imagine how cold the river water was. It was damn near like swimming in ice water. Fighting through the discomfort, I quickly swam towards the woman. Finally, after a tremendous effort, I managed to pull the woman onto the bank. After laying her flat on the ground, I finally got a clear look at her face. It was by Ningbing. But now, her usual cold, stunning beauty was gone. Instead, her face was deathly pale, her eyes were tightly shut, and her mouth was slightly agape. She had clearly gone into shock. Seeing this, I knew I had to give her first aid immediately, otherwise this girl was definitely going to die. Muttering an apology to her, I immediately began first aid. Whether it was me in my past life or this current body, I had extensive experience with first aid for drowning. So the actions came smoothly. Artificial respiration, chest compressions, alternating the two actions fluidly, all in one go. Before long, with a gasp, Bai Ningbing coughed up the water in her lungs. After a bout of coughing, Bai Ningbing slowly opened her eyes. Half an hour later, Yin City First People's Hospital, VIP ward. After the doctors completed a series of examinations on Bai Ningbing and confirmed there were no lasting issues, they quickly departed, leaving just Bai Ningbing and me alone. She stared towards the door. I gazed out the window. Neither of us spoke. The silence in the ward was deafening. Just as I was considering whether I should leave, Bai Ningbing, lying on the bed, suddenly spoke. "Chen Fan, thank you for saving me." Her tone was full of softness, so unlike the Bai Ningbing from the original host's memories. It was as if she were a completely different person. Finding it a bit strange for a moment, I shook my head and replied, "It's nothing really, just glad I could help." Speaking of which, I myself was originally just heading to the company, but somehow ended up driving towards the river inexplicably. That's why I was there. But I am very curious about why you were there, Ningbing, and how you fell in. Would you be willing to explain? Of course, if you'd rather not say, Ningbing, I won't press you. Also, I've already notified your parents. They should be here soon. Although I decided not to pursue Bai Ningbing anymore, after some thought, I figured I should stick with calling her Ningbing. Suddenly switching to Miss Bai, or something else would seem too abrupt. But after my string of questions and statements, I received no reply from Bai Ningbing. This struck me as odd, so I turned to look at Bai Ningbing on the bed. When I turned to look, I found Bai Ningbing staring right at me, completely blank-faced. Furthermore, her expression looked somewhat adorably dazed, making it impossible to tell she was normally such an icy woman. If it weren't for the original host's memories in my mind, I might have mistaken this Bai Ningbing for just some ditzy, cute girl. After a moment, Bai Ningbing seemed to snap out of it. Realizing she was staring at me, she looked away shyly. Then she replied softly, I just finished work today, so I wanted to go to the riverside to take a look and get some fresh air. But while walking along the shore, I accidentally stepped on a stone and fell in. I can swim, but the water was so cold that my arms froze up the moment I hit it, and I couldn't move them. And then, Bai Ningbing trailed off, too embarrassed to continue. Looking at her somewhat sheepish expression, I suddenly found it refreshing. Who would have thought this usually ice-cold girl would show such a look? It was truly unexpected. That expression, paired with her stunningly beautiful face. I figured any normal man would find it unbearable. No wonder the original owner had stubbornly pursued her for 2 whole years without giving up. Even I, who had already decided to stop chasing her, felt a little swayed. Wait, stop. My main task right now is to get the food delivery business up and running. Love and romance? Scram. With that in mind, I replied to Bai Ningbing. I see. No wonder the usually work-focused vice president Bai would appear in a place like this at this hour. But I'd suggest bringing your secretary or bodyguard next time you go out into the wild. This time, I happen to be here to save you, but next time might be different. Anyway, your parents should be arriving soon. You can talk to them about any questions you have. I still need to head to the company, so I won't disturb you any longer. After saying that, I nodded at Bai Ningbing and turned toward the door. Just as I was about to pull it open, Bai Ningbing spoke up. Chen Fan, are you free tomorrow? I'd like to treat you to a meal as thanks. Hearing this, my first instinct was to refuse. After all, once I discussed the food delivery business with my parents later, I'd probably be swamped. But considering the relationship between our families and the fact that I just saved her life, refusing outright might not be appropriate. Besides, it was just a meal. It wouldn't take much time. So I turned back to look at her and replied, Sure, just let me know the time and place once you've decided, and I'll be there on time. Bai Ningbing's beautiful face lit up with a radiant smile. She nodded lightly, her voice light and tinged with anticipation as she replied, Good, it's settled then. I'll message you once I've booked a place tomorrow. All right, I nodded in response, then opened the door and stepped out. After walking a few steps, I saw Bai Ningbing's parents approaching from the other end of the hallway. Spotting me, they immediately quickened their pace. Once they reached me, her mother, Li Wanqing, and her father, Bai Jinsong, asked in unison, Xiao Fan, is Ningbing all right? Uncle, Annie, she's fine. She just swallowed a little water, but it's all cleared up now. You can go in and see for yourselves. Oh, and need to head back to the company now, so I'll take my leave first. Knowing they must be worried, I immediately reassured them about Bai Ningbing's condition. Hearing my reply, Li Wanqing and Bai Jinsong visibly relaxed. As their only child, Bai Ningbing had been their treasure since childhood. When she was little, she had nearly drowned once before. Back then, when they heard about it from her grandparents, they had almost been scared to death. To think that now that Bai Ningbing had grown up, she would actually have another drowning incident. When they heard the news, it nearly scared them to death. Thankfully, their daughter was all right. Xiao Fan, thank you so truly much this time. If it hadn't been for you, we would have had to bury our own daughter. Since you need to get back to the company, Xiao Fan, Uncle, and Annie won't keep you. We'll pay you a formal visit another day to express our gratitude properly. Bai Jinsong could see I was in a bit of a hurry, so he reached out, patted me gently on the shoulder, and added his thanks. Yes, indeed. We're truly so grateful to you, Xiao Fan. All right then, I'll be leaving now. Uncle, Auntie, you should head inside. After nodding, I left. After watching my receding figure disappear from their sight, Bai's father and mother turned and walked to Bai Ningbing's hospital room, then pushed open the door and went inside. Upon entering the room, they saw Bai Ningbing lying on the hospital bed, quietly gazing out the window, looking as though she had something on her mind. Li Wanqing and Bai Jinsong exchanged a glance, then walked over to the bedside. Bai Ningbing saw her parents had arrived and said, somewhat sheepishly, Dad, Mom, you're here. Yes, you silly girl. You really gave us a scare. Quickly tell Mom and Dad what happened. You were clearly at the company this morning. How did you suddenly end up by the little river this afternoon? And even manage to fall in? Bai's mother couldn't help but chide her, and Bai Ningbing knew she had nearly caused a great disaster this time. So she had no choice but to explain to her parents in detail the cause of the drowning incident, as well as the reason why I had also appeared by the river. After Bai's father and mother listened to her explanation, they couldn't help but frown. Then, Bai's father replied earnestly. Thankfully, Xiao Fan was there this time. Otherwise, your mother and I, and your grandparents, would truly have had to face the tragedy of outliving you. Girl, although we don't know why you're unwilling to find a boyfriend or interact much with other men, in our eyes, Xiao Fan, whether considering his family background or his character and conduct, is very compatible with you. Even when you two are just together, your mother and I both feel you look like a match made in heaven. Although mom and dad won't interfere in your romantic life, dad sincerely suggests you consider Xiao Fan. After all, he's pursued you for 2 years, and his feelings for you are plain for all to see. Moreover, the way he inexplicably wandered towards the little river this time, and coincidentally saved you from drowning, it suggests a certain fate between you two. There's an old saying, fate works in mysterious ways. I hope you understand, girl. After Bai's father finished speaking, Bai's mother, beside him, added her agreement. Yes, dear, your dad is right. Please think about it carefully. Listening to her parents heap praise on me right in front of her, Bai Ningbing felt overwhelmed. After much hesitation, she decided to reveal why she was reluctant to interact closely with other men. Otherwise, her parents would surely continue trying to persuade her. Thinking this, Bai Ningbing sighed and said, Dad, Mom, the reason I was reluctant to get close to other men before is actually because there's already someone I like in my heart. Let me tell you about it. It's like this. As Bai Ningbing slowly recounted her story, her parents finally began to understand the reason. No wonder they had noticed that ever since that drowning incident when she was 9, their daughter disliked interacting with other boys. Listening to Bai Ningbing finish, Mother Bai couldn't help reaching out and gently holding Bai Ningbing's hand, then comforted her, saying, You silly girl, if that was the reason, you could have just told us. Mom and Dad could help you look together. Yes, I've lived in our hometown for so many years. Maybe someone I know has heard something, Father Bai added. Hearing this, Bai Ningbing's cheeks flushed slightly as she replied, I just didn't know how to tell you. It was the first time Bai Ningbing had voiced the secret in her heart. Even though she was confiding in her parents, the feeling of such a deep secret being known by others still made her feel quite shy. Seeing Bai Ningbing's reaction, Mother Bai patted the back of her hand and said earnestly, Girl, if anything troubles you in the future, you can always tell Mom and Dad. Don't ever keep it hidden inside. If you tell us, maybe your dad and I can lend a hand, and things could be resolved better, right? But Father Bai said thoughtfully, Since you already have someone you like, how do you plan to handle things with Xiao Fan? After all, he saved you, didn't he? If you still decide to reject Xiao Fan, I suggest you find a chance to make it clear to him. It's better for both of you that way. Bai Ningbing fell into deep thought after hearing this. After a moment, having come up with an idea, Bai Ningbing spoke up. Dad, I'll handle this properly. It won't affect the relationship between our family and the Chun family. You can rest assured. Hearing this, Father Bai nodded and replied, It's good that you know. By the way, girl, how are you feeling now? Dad, I feel fine now. Let's go home. Bai Ningbing assessed her condition, felt no discomfort, and made the suggestion. Hearing this, Mother Bai immediately stopped her. Don't be hasty. Wait for Mom to call a doctor over to check again. After confirming there are no issues, it won't be too late for us to leave. With that, Mother Bai pressed the call button on the hospital bed. Soon, a nurse walked into the ward, and Mother Bai explained the situation. Following the nurse's notification, a female doctor soon arrived with equipment and began Bai Ningbing's discharge examination. Since Bai Ningbing hadn't been drowning for long and the rescue was prompt, there were no lingering health issues. After the doctor confirmed everything was fine once more, Father Bai and Mother Bai handled her discharge procedures. The next day at 3 p.m., I was lounging at home, playing on my phone and scrolling through short videos from this world. Yesterday, I had talked to Mom and Dad about the food delivery business. I thought I'd be busy after that, but they said that while the plan was highly feasible and had considerable market value, the large initial investment required a detailed evaluation and market data collection before deciding whether to proceed. I understood this. After all, in my previous life, the food delivery industry mostly relied on burning cash to capture market share. So, with nothing much to do for a while, Mom sent me home to relax. But as I was scrolling through videos, a special WeChat notification sound suddenly went off on my phone. Hearing it, I couldn't help but freeze for a moment. It seemed to be the custom notification sound the original owner had set for Bai Ningbing. I'd actually forgotten to disable it. I took out my phone and looked. It turned out Bai Ningbing had already booked a place and was inviting me over. Looking at the address, I thought to myself, it's not too far. Driving there should be quick. Since I had nothing else to do right then, I quickly replied, "Be right there." Then I got up and went to the dressing room, changed into a more appropriate outfit for the appointment, and headed downstairs to the parking garage. Bai Ningbing had reserved a table at a famous Cantonese restaurant in Yunqing, where the head chef was said to hold the national top-tier chef certification, a truly formidable culinary expert. The original owner of this body had visited this restaurant many times, making him a regular customer. Thus, in the original owner's memories, the route to the restaurant was practically ingrained. It took me less than 5 minutes to arrive at the Cantonese restaurant. After parking the car, I walked toward the entrance. The restaurant staff, upon seeing me, greeted me with practiced ease. "Welcome, young Master Chun. Shall we serve the dishes as usual?" Hearing this, I shook my head and replied, "I'm here for an appointment this time. Take me to private room 3-1. The waiter immediately responded, "Understood, young Master Chun. Please follow me this way." With that, the waiter gestured in a direction and led the way. Soon, under the waiter's guidance, I arrived at private room 3-1 and knocked on the door. A voice from inside promptly invited me in. With permission granted, I pushed the door open and entered. When Bai Ningbing saw that it was me, her coldly elegant face blossomed into a captivating smile. Then she spoke. "Chun Fan, you're here. Have a seat first. I'll have them serve the dishes now, and we can talk while we eat." "All right," I nodded in response. The restaurant was quick with their service. Within less than 10 minutes of my arrival, the 8 dishes and 1 soup Bai Ningbing had ordered were all served. It seemed she had likely instructed the chef to prepare in advance. Once the dishes were all laid out, the waitstaff tactfully withdrew and closed the door behind them. At first, Bai Ningbing behaved quite normally, expressing her gratitude while mentioning that she and her parents would later pay a visit to my home. As for this matter, I didn't mind, simply responding that it was no trouble and that it was the least I could do, and so on. However, after we had been eating for a while, the atmosphere in the room grew somewhat strange. Neither of us spoke, focusing only on picking at the dishes and eating. Bai Ningbing had originally intended to use this opportunity to express her gratitude for saving her life, but after her father's words yesterday, she found herself hesitating. Should I take this chance to also tell Chun Fan that I already have someone I like? Bai Ningbing thought to herself. The moment this idea surfaced, another inner voice warned her that speaking now might lead to unexpected consequences. After all, when it came to matters of the heart, how could someone who had never been in a relationship before navigate such a situation? Thus, Bai Ningbing found herself at a loss for words. Although the restaurant's dishes were delicious, the stifling silence eventually made me glance at Bai Ningbing. And when I saw the expression on her face, I immediately understood why she wasn't speaking. Her face carried a trace of confusion and hesitation, as if she wanted to say something but was held back by some unspoken reason. I had experienced this state before. In my past life, when I delivered food, I occasionally handled flower delivery orders. Out of 10 such orders, 9 were from hopeless admirers sending gifts to their so-called goddesses. And out of those 9, at least 5 ended with the recipient telling me to throw the flowers away. So, when I marked the order as delivered, the sender would call to ask whether their goddess had accepted the flowers or if she had any reaction. That was when I would find myself in this exact state of hesitation. Similarly, I had seen many other delivery riders face the same dilemma, so I recognized this expression all too well. So, after seeing Bai Ningbing's expression, I asked, "Ningbing, is there something else you wanted to tell me? If there is, just say it directly. I know you invited me to this meal to thank me, and I've already received your thanks. So, you don't need to feel obligated about that anymore." Hearing my words, Bai Ningbing was stunned for a moment. She hadn't expected me to see through her thoughts, so she felt a bit awkward. After all, what she wanted to say didn't seem like something to celebrate. But since I had brought it up, she knew if she didn't say it now, she might not get such a good chance next time. Therefore, after organizing her thoughts, Bai Ningbing began to speak. "Chun Fan, actually, there's something I've wanted to tell you for a long time, but I was afraid saying it might harm the relationship between our families, so I never found the right chance. However, if I don't say it, it might not be good for either of us. So, I wanted to take this opportunity to make things clear. Hearing this, I knew what she was going to say next. The only thing that could make her feel it would affect the relationship between our families was the matter of my previous self pursuing her before. So, she probably wants to say she doesn't like my previous self and hopes he wouldn't waste his time on her. As for why not me? Duh, I just transmigrated a few days ago. I haven't even pursued her yet. After all, my previous self's pursuit of her had the approval of both sets of parents. Thinking of this, I replied, "It's all right, Ningbing. I think I can guess what you want to say. Just say it directly. Don't worry about affecting the relationship between our families. After all, our family's cooperative relationship wasn't formed just because of us younger generation members, right?" Bai Ningbing was slightly taken aback. She hadn't expected me to be so direct. She lightly bit her lower lip, hesitated for a moment, and then slowly began to speak. "Chen Fan, I've always known that our parents want to set us up together. The reason I never accepted your pursuit is actually because I already have someone I like in my heart. Under these circumstances, I really can't accept the pursuit of any other man. I'm very sorry for making you waste 2 years on me. I'll make it up to you if I have the chance in the future." I listened quietly as Bai Ningbing finished speaking her mind, sighing inwardly. So that's how it is. No wonder Bai Ningbing has been so cold towards almost all men these past years. It turns out she already has someone she likes. I remember there's a saying that goes something like this: "She isn't unkind. Her tenderness is just reserved for him, unseen by others." I think that's probably how it goes, right? However, in my previous self's memories, there was no news about Bai Ningbing having a boyfriend. Besides, Father Bai and Mother Bai clearly wanted to set her up with my previous self. If Father Bai and Mother Bai knew she had a boyfriend, they definitely wouldn't have done that. After all, if they knew Bai Ningbing had a boyfriend and still tried to set her up with someone else, wouldn't that mean trying to break them up? This is such a cliché drama plot. If Father Chun and Mother Chun found out about this, they certainly wouldn't agree to it. Therefore, Father Bai and Mother Bai definitely didn't know about Bai Ningbing having a boyfriend before. Now that Bai Ningbing is willing to say it, it must mean they probably know now, which is why she had to reveal this information. Thinking of this, I suddenly became quite interested in this boyfriend of Bai Ningbing's. To actually win over a top-tier beauty like Bai Ningbing and remain undiscovered for so many years, he must definitely be an expert. So, intrigued, I replied, "So that's it. I always thought it was my fault that pursuing Ningbing for 2 years yielded no results. Now, I finally understand why. However, speaking of which, I'm actually quite curious about the person who captured the heart of our Yunqing's #1 beauty, Bai Ningbing. I wonder if Ningbing could introduce us? I'd like to ask him for his secret technique. Maybe then I can quickly find someone myself, haha." Hearing the ease in my tone, a heavy weight finally lifted from Bai Ningbing's heart. It seemed the rumors circulating online were true. I had given up pursuing her. Only then could I sound so relaxed. However, for her, this outcome couldn't have been better. So, after resolving the issue that had troubled her for 2 years, a smile began to bloom on Bai Ningbing's face. When she heard I wanted to meet the person she liked, although she hesitated slightly, Bai Ningbing decided to reveal it. After all, she had already told her parents. Even if she didn't say anything now, when they eventually visited the Chun family, her parents might bring it up. So, there was no point in hiding it. Therefore, seeing the keen interest on my face, Bai Ningbing slowly recounted the story of how, when she was 9 years old, she was playing by a river, got swept away by a flood, and was subsequently rescued by a young boy. The person she liked, she explained, was that same boy who had saved her. When Bai Ningbing mentioned the river was called the Flowing Sand River, the name sounded somewhat familiar to me. "Ningbing, do you mean the Flowing Sand River next to Jianghe Village?" I asked, somewhat uncertainly. "Yes. Chun Fan, have you been there too?" Bai Ningbing replied, sounding slightly puzzled. "Yes, I went there with my grandpa when I was a kid," I replied. Hearing my confirmation, Bai Ningbing nodded and continued. However, when Bai Ningbing spoke of being swept away by the flood and rescued by a young boy, I froze. What was going on? I actually found this exact scene within the memories of this body's original owner. The memory showed that, back then, the original owner had accompanied his grandfather to the countryside. Being interested in catching fish by hand, he had snuck off to the riverbank while his grandfather was catching up with an old friend. After he had been fishing for some time and was about to head back, he saw a flash flood surging down from upstream. The sight nearly scared him witless. After all, the original owner was only 9 years old then, just a playful child. Therefore, upon seeing this scene, his initial instinct was to run straight home to find his grandfather. However, just as he turned to leave, he spotted a girl drifting in the surging floodwaters, with two elderly people chasing frantically along the bank in the distance. It was clear the little girl must have accidentally been swept away. So, without a second thought, the original owner jumped into the river, heading towards the direction the girl was being swept. Although the original owner was only 9, he had already learned proficient swimming skills. Despite the fierce turbulence of the flood, it was still possible to swim by correctly judging the water's flow and using the right posture. Ultimately, the original owner managed to rescue the girl relatively easily. Right after pulling her out, the original owner performed CPR and revived her. He then signaled to the two pursuing elders and left immediately. He was afraid that if he stayed out longer, his grandfather would discover he had snuck out to play, so he needed to rush back and change his clothes. As for what happened to the girl afterwards, the original owner had no idea, because he returned to Yunqing with his grandfather that same day. After reviewing the original owner's memory, I couldn't help but sigh. Isn't this plot a bit too melodramatic? Isn't this just like that saying, the one I like doesn't like me, the one I like does like me, but the one who likes me doesn't know it's me? No, wait. According to Bai Ningbing's description, she should like the original owner who saved her back then. But the original owner and Bai Ningbing were never together. Then who is the person Bai Ningbing likes? Could it be someone impersonating him? No, I have to ask about this. Even though I've already decided not to pursue her, nobody would want a stranger impersonating them like this. Thinking of this, I asked somewhat uncertainly, Ningbing, are you saying you like the boy who saved you when you were 9? Have you been with him all these years? Hearing me ask this question, Bai Ningbing replied, somewhat dejectedly, yes, but I'm not with him yet because I haven't found him. Hearing this reply, I didn't know what to say for a moment. Should I just reveal that I'm that boy from back then? If I revealed it directly, wouldn't I be able to easily win over Bai Ningbing, Yunqing's #1 beauty, and take the beauty home? But I already promised the original owner I wouldn't pursue Bai Ningbing anymore. If I reveal my identity now, wouldn't that be going back on my word? What if the original owner isn't completely gone and comes back to fight me for the body? What'd I do then? He's the original inhabitant of this body. An outsider like me definitely wouldn't win against him. If the body gets snatched back, then I'll be completely done for. Sai, forget it. She's just Yunqing's #1 beauty. 100 years later, won't she just be a pile of dust? So I decided not to reveal my identity after all. Just as I was about to offer some comfort, Bai Ningbing spoke first. Chen Fan, you mentioned you went to Jianghe village with your grandfather when you were young. Are you familiar with the people there? I remember after he saved me, the direction he walked was towards Jianghe village. Also, he had a very unique mark on his right shoulder, like a little bird, the kind that's unforgettable at first glance. Do you recognize it? No. I only went there once with my grandpa back then, and we came back the same day. We didn't stay long, so I can't help you with that. Hearing Bai Ningbing mention the mark on the right shoulder, for a moment I thought she had recognized me and subconsciously wanted to raise my hand to cover the spot where the mark was. But the next moment, I realized I was obviously wearing clothes. How could Bai Ningbing see it? So I quickly put my hand down. But no matter how fast I put my hand down, Bai Ningbing still saw it. Immediately, her gaze started moving back and forth over my right shoulder. Instantly, I felt a sense of foreboding. She wouldn't suspect it's me just because of that movement, right? No way, probably not. Good. I sensed Bai Ningbing only glanced a few times before looking away. If she had kept looking, I probably would have broken out in a cold sweat. After this interlude, the atmosphere in the private room became awkward again. Fortunately, we had both pretty much finished eating, so I suggested leaving first, using the excuse that I had things to do at home. Bai Ningbing didn't ask me to stay, which made me breathe a sigh of relief. After quickly leaving the private room, I headed straight home. For the next few days, I basically stayed at home. Besides continuing to refine the details of the food delivery business, I also identified several other potentially promising industries. So, to avoid potential memory loss, I needed to write them down quickly and save them properly. One afternoon, 6 days had passed since Bai Ningbing last treated me to dinner. Just as I was sitting in front of my computer, fingers flying wildly across the keyboard, the notification sound for WeChat suddenly rang out from my phone. I picked up my phone to look. It was actually Bai Ningbing. Why was she looking for me at this hour and asking if I was home? Logically, we didn't have any business that would require her to come directly to my home to discuss things. Unsure of what she wanted for a moment, I simply replied with here. After waiting a while without receiving a reply, I tossed my phone aside and continued typing on the keyboard. Just when I thought Bai Ningbing had only asked casually, since several minutes had passed without her replying. But while I was still hard at work typing, a knock sounded on my door. Instantly, I remember Bai Ningbing's earlier message asking if I was home. Could she really have come straight over to find me? Without much time to think, I got up, walked behind the door, and opened it. In an instant, I clearly saw the figure outside the door. It was Bai Ningbing. Moreover, judging by her expression, she was clearly suppressing something. It didn't quite look like anger, but rather grievance? This left me feeling somewhat bewildered. I hadn't done anything to wrong her. I've been staying home these past few days. Even a hardcore homebody isn't as much of a homebody as me. No, wait. It seems I actually did do something to wrong her, which was not revealing my identity to her. Could be she found out. No way. Thinking this, I forced myself to appear calm and asked, Ningbing, what did you need me for? Bai Ningbing didn't reply, just stared intently at me. Her piercing gaze made my scalp tingle, so I had no choice but to speak again. Ningbing, if you don't have anything urgent right now. However, before I could finish, Bai Ningbing finally spoke, but the moment she did, I felt like my heart stopped. Chun Fan, why weren't you willing to reveal your identity last time? When Bai Ningbing said this, her tone carried a hint of anger, but even more grievance. When she asked this, I knew she had probably learned my identity, but I still asked, clinging to a sliver of hope. Ningbing, what identity should I reveal? My identity shouldn't be some secret, right? However, after hearing my reply, Bai Ningbing didn't answer. Instead, she took out her phone, opened the photo album, selected a picture, and then held it out in front of me. Seeing the picture on the phone, my eyes couldn't help but widen. Isn't this a childhood photo of the original owner? How does Bai Ningbing have it? That. Ningbing, where did you get this picture? Looking at the picture on the phone, then at Bai Ningbing's face full of grievance, any thought I had of trying to argue died instantly. But this time, Bai Ningbing didn't reply again. Instead, she rushed into my arms, hugging me tightly. Her pretty face was buried in my chest, her body trembling slightly. Her action startled me so much I didn't dare move. I didn't even know where to put my hands. Soon, I felt a damp patch on my chest. Bai Ningbing was actually crying? I never expected that Bai Ningbing, who always appeared exceptionally strong and also very cold on the outside, actually had this side to her. When I raised my hand, wanting to gently pat her back to try and soothe her agitated emotions, I couldn't think of any comforting words to say at that moment, leaving me deeply conflicted. After a while, Bai Ningbing slowly lifted her head. Her eyes were red as she stared straight at me, her gaze filled with complex emotions, grievance, resentment, but even more so, affection. Chun Fan, did you know? I've been searching for you for 18 whole years. For these 18 years, every time I saw anything related to a river, I would remember that scene from back then. And whenever I thought of that scene, your figure would appear so clearly in my mind, reminding me never to give up searching for news of you. As Bai Ningbing spoke, her voice started to choke with tears. Do you know? Every time I sent people to look for any information about you, I was filled with anticipation. But every time, the reply was that nothing related to you could be found. Even so, I never gave up searching for you. And that search lasted for 18 whole years. By this point, Bai Ningbing's beautiful face was streaked with tears, but she still stared intently at me. Her hands gripped mine tightly, unwilling to loosen even slightly, as if afraid I might suddenly vanish. Ningbing, looking at this stunning, tear-streaked face before me, it would be a lie to say I wasn't moved. After all, a peerless beauty like Bai Ningbing had been searching for me for 18 whole years. But when I remembered that the person she had sought for 18 years was the original owner of this body, I felt like a thief. Just then, Bai Ningbing noticed the hesitation on my face. She abruptly stood up, hastily wiped away her tears, resumed her usual icy demeanor, and said in a cold tone, "Since you, Chin Fan, are unwilling to confirm your identity, then let's just say I was being foolishly sentimental. I'll leave now. I will strive to repay you for saving my life in the future. Thank you very much for saving me twice." With that said, Bai Ningbing turned and headed downstairs. But just as she turned, I caught a fleeting glimpse of disappointment and sadness deep within her eyes. She must be heartbroken right now, mustn't she? The person she searched for 18 years was apparently unwilling to acknowledge his identity to her. Watching her figure retreat some distance away, I gritted my teeth. They say to die at the feet of a beauty is a romantic fate, even for a ghost. A peerless beauty was right here before me. If I let this chance slip away, I'd really be an idiot. Besides, the original owner's dying wish was to give up pursuing Bai Ningbing, and I've already fulfilled that. Now Bai Ningbing is the one pursuing me. So what the hell do I have to be afraid of? As for Bai Ningbing searching for the original owner for 18 years, what does that have to do with me? So why not just admit it freely and win the beauty? Wouldn't that be great? Besides, devoted women like Bai Ningbing are rare these days. 18 whole years of searching. How many 18 years does a person get in life? I can only imagine how tormented Bai Ningbing must have been these past 18 years. First, the disappointment of not finding the person she loved. Second, the envy of seeing others in happy couples. Third, the annoyance of being relentlessly pursued by the original owner for the last 2 years. Fate really does play tricks on people. At that thought, I decided to stop her. So, watching Bai Ningbing nearing the staircase, I quickly called out, "Ningbing, wait." Hearing my voice, Bai Ningbing's delicate frame trembled slightly, and she stopped walking. Seeing her stop, I quickly rushed over, grabbed her small hand, and pulled her towards my room. Bai Ningbing was stunned by this series of actions. Before she could react, I had pulled her into the room. Click! After pulling Bai Ningbing into the room, I gently closed the door. Then, I pressed her against the back of the door, looked into her beautiful eyes, and said, "Ningbing, it's not actually that I'm unwilling to confirm my identity. It's that I don't want the fact that I saved you back then to become the sole basis of our connection. That's a very unstable foundation for a relationship. I pursued you for 2 years before. Everyone could see how I felt about you. But at the same time, I was also very aware that you didn't fall in love with me. So, even if I admit my identity, the one you like still isn't the current me, but the me who saved you back then. Do you understand?" Having said that, I released Bai Ningbing. After speaking my mind, it was now up to Bai Ningbing to choose. And Bai Ningbing, upon hearing me finish, immediately fell into deep thought. Although she didn't fully understand things like emotions, she knew the person she had been searching for was right before her. This was what she had striven for over the past 18 years. Thus, Bai Ningbing took a deep breath and replied in a firm tone, "Chin Fan, I don't understand emotional matters, but what I know very clearly is that when I learned the person I was looking for was you, I felt an indescribable sense of closeness towards you. This isn't just gratitude for saving my life back then. It also includes the warmth I felt from your pursuit over these past 2 years. And a few days ago when I was drowning again, you were the one who saved me, and you even performed mouth-to-mouth resuscitation." As she said this, a blush spread across Bai Ningbing's pretty face, and her head lowered involuntarily. It had to be said, the shy Bai Ningbing at this moment was like tempting cream on a cake, making one irresistibly want to take a bite. After an internal struggle, I reached out, placed my hand under Bai Ningbing's delicate chin, gently turned her face towards me, and then asked softly, "Ningbing, since we both have feelings for each other, shall we try dating?" Upon hearing this, Bai Ningbing broke into a charming smile and nodded emphatically in response. Her 18-year-long wish was finally fulfilled. I looked at Bai Ningbing, now devoid of her usual icy demeanor, at her pretty face still flushed with a blush, and at her rosy lips. I couldn't resist leaning in to kiss her. MMPH. The moment my lips met hers, Bai Ningbing's delicate frame trembled sharply. Then, she subconsciously raised her hands, gently wrapped them around my neck, and with a hint of shyness and inexperience began to return my kiss. And just like that, Bai Ningbing and I were together. Initially, we planned to keep it secret for a while. Even our dates were clandestine. During the day, Bai Ningbing would use the pretext of discussing business to linger in my home or office. At night, I would take her out to explore various places: commercial streets, food streets, shopping malls, romantic spots, movie theaters, and so on. We visited them all. Especially during holidays, we would secretly slip away to travel around the country. But later, somehow, someone found out. They took photos of us holding hands, hugging, and kissing, and posted them online. Naturally, this sparked intense discussion among netizens, particularly those netizens who had previously mocked the Simp's get-nothing sentiment. When they saw the news, a single thought flashed through their minds. What's going on? Did this guy actually succeed by simping? Other netizens who had previously followed the gossip also expressed shock and envy, flooding the comment section of the expose post. Soon, the expose post was trending. At that moment, we were strolling through a food street. Don't be misled by Ningbing's former Ice Queen persona. It was all an act. In reality, she's a total foodie. Whenever we went out, she loved dragging me towards places with food. And no matter how much she ate, she never seemed to gain weight. It was truly enviable. Just as we were wandering through the food street and deciding on our next destination, I suddenly received a WeChat call from my mom. After the call connected, Mom's joyful voice came through. "Xiao Fan, is that girl Ningbing with you right now?" Hearing this, I instinctively looked at Bai Ningbing beside me, who was holding my arm, and she instinctively shook her head. I immediately denied it. "Mom, no, I'm out by myself." At first, I thought I could fool her, but unexpectedly, Mom immediately retorted, "Huh, you brat. Still trying to hide things from Mom? Someone already took a picture of you and that girl Ningbing together. Quickly turn on your camera. I want to see Ningbing." Hearing this, Bai Ningbing and I exchanged a look. We were photographed? Good grief. Having no choice, I turned on the video call button. Immediately, both of us appeared on the screen. After Mom turned her video on too, she saw Bai Ningbing next to me. Bai Ningbing looked at Mom on the video and said somewhat shyly, "Hello, Auntie. Yes, it really is Ningbing. That's wonderful." Mom replied somewhat incoherently upon seeing Bai Ningbing next to me. Then she passed the phone to Dad. "Old Chun, look quickly. Our son is on a date with Ningbing right now." "Oh, is that so? Let me see." Hearing this, Dad immediately took the phone. Immediately, his face appeared on the screen, and naturally, he also saw Bai Ningbing beside me. "Hello, Uncle," Bai Ningbing said obediently, looking at the face on the screen. Oh, yes, it really is Ningbing. This is great, huh?" Dad looked at the two of us through the screen, grinning from ear to ear. "Ningbing and Xiao Fan, you two be careful out there. We won't disturb you anymore. Have fun, huh?" After saying this, Dad hung up the phone, leaving Bai Ningbing and me looking at each other. Then, sharing the same thought, we both started laughing. Well, if they know, they know. This way, we don't have to be secretive anymore. After this little episode, my relationship with Bai Ningbing was officially public. As a result, Bai Ningbing no longer needed to put on a cold and aloof facade for others and return to her original personality. And Bai Ningbing, having returned to her original personality, was like a young girl newly in love, at one point making the employees of the Bai Group feel as if they had traveled through time. They never expected their cold female CEO would actually turn out like this one day, and couldn't help but admire the man who had managed to win over Bai Ningbing. After my relationship with Bai Ningbing became public, my parents immediately went to find Bai Ningbing's parents to discuss our marriage. They had originally wanted to matchmake us anyway, so the discussion went extremely smoothly. As for me, I chose a special day, the Qixi Festival, to formally propose to Bai Ningbing. On this day, I took Bai Ningbing to Yunqing Lovers Valley Park as usual, ready to experience our first Valentine's Day together. Little did she know, I had already arranged for this place to be set up as a grand proposal site, disguised as a ring toss game activity. The grand prize for this activity was the diamond engagement ring I had prepared. Although this kind of setup was already cliché in my previous life, it hadn't appeared in this world yet. So I planned to use this scenario to give Bai Ningbing an unforgettable memory. Under the arrangement of the ring toss boss, I smoothly won the grand prize. Yay! Chen Fan, you won the grand prize. Quick, see what it is. Bai Ningbing, seeing me win the grand prize, immediately jumped up happily. I took the reward box handed over by the boss and gave it to Bai Ningbing, then said with a smile, Ningbing, why don't you open it and see? Oh, let me see. Carrot. Bai Ningbing took the box from my hand and opened it. Then, she took out a heart-shaped box from the reward box. For a moment, she didn't know what was inside and looked at me. I nodded at her, signaling for her to open the box. Bai Ningbing blinked, her fingertips gently caressing the delicate velvet surface of the heart-shaped box, as if sensing something. A faint blush appeared on her cheeks. She slowly lifted the lid, and instantly, a brilliant light reflected in her eyes, like the Milky Way had fallen into it. This is... Bai Ningbing looked at the diamond ring in the box, her voice trembling slightly. Before she could finish, I knelt down on one knee and took the ring box from her hand. At this moment, hidden lights around us suddenly lit up, enveloping us in a warm yellow halo. It felt as if only she and I existed in the world. Ningbing, I love you. Will you marry me and let me protect you forever, for all my life? I held up the ring box and shouted loudly towards Bai Ningbing. After speaking, I took the diamond ring, sparkling under the lights, out of the box and waited for Bai Ningbing's answer. At this moment, Bai Ningbing seemed not to have expected me to propose at this time. She covered her mouth with her hand, nodding while choking back sobs. Her voice, thick with tears yet incredibly firm, said, I do. Without any surprise, I got the answer I wanted. Although I've lived 2 lives, this was my first time proposing. With trembling hands, I slid the ring onto Bai Ningbing's left ring finger, then stood up and pulled her in my arms. Immediately after, romantic music and enthusiastic applause filled the surroundings. After the proposal, Bai Ningbing and I officially started the countdown to our wedding. We set the date for National Day. Not only is it a good day to celebrate the founding of the country, but it was also the auspicious date chosen by Mom and Dad based on our birth charts. Truly a double blessing. On that day, witnessed by friends, family, and netizens across the country, we held a grand wedding ceremony. That evening, looking at the photo of us hanging above the headboard, I couldn't help but exclaim inwardly, "Heh, I'm a married man now, huh?" Saying this, I quickly slipped under the covers. Immediately after, sounds that would make one blush emanated from under the quilt. 20,000 words omitted. End of book.